Hey, thanks so much for finding the video. Do us a favor. If you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. And be sure to leave your comment. We love to interact. Enjoy the video. The Russell Wilson thing, there are many prongs to this story that I want to address with you. So let's start with the most obvious, what probably is the most obvious answer. If you're the New Orleans Saints, are you interested in putting together a package for Russell Wilson?
You better believe it.
I figured that would be the easiest answer.
Come on, we talked about this a couple of weeks back. If you get an opportunity to trade for Deshaun Watson or Russell Wilson, you do what you have to do to get them. Those aren't good players. They're great players in this league. And so, man, listen, I give up eye teeth to get Russell Wilson or Watson, either one of the two. Because either you, it's that old Hank Stram line, either you got one or you looking for one. Great quarterbacks. And there aren't a lot of those guys out there. And man, I do what I have to do to get them. But, the thing about this isn't this goes right back to what I talk about a lot, relationships, Matt. What is rolling in Pete Carroll's head to think he can win without a star quarterback on that football team?
Yeah.
My thing is, listen, Pete's been a great college coach at USC. He's been a big-time coach, certainly in the NFL. But that roster is totally different today than certainly it was 5 years ago. And his acumen for picking players is horrible. Horrible. And I'll give you a great example. Over the last 4 drafts, Malik McDowell was his first-round pick in 2018. You know how many games he played for Seattle?
Ooh.
0.
Wow.
Ethan Posick, now listen, second-round pick, Ethan, he may be the star of the bunch. He's played in 44 games and he started 30. In 2019, he picks Rashard Penny. And that was a bit of a surprise pick in round 1. Say in 3 years, he's rushed for 823 yards in 3 years. Rasheem Green was the second pick for him, a defensive end. And he's been solid, 46 tackles, 7 sacks in 3 years. In 2020, L.J. Collier, as a rookie, Collier, 3 tackles. Last year, 21 tackles, had 3 sacks. Their second-round pick, Marquise Blair, played in 0 games a year ago. Last year, he was knocked out with injuries early. 40 in his career, he's had 40 tackles, 0 pass interceptions at safety. 0. Now, DK Metcalf was the other second. He hit on DK, so I give him credit there. Last year, who was their first-round pick? You think of the name right off the top of your head?
Oh, God, no.
Jordan Brooks, who started in 6 games this year. Their second-round pick, Darrell Taylor from Tennessee. Had surgery, played in 0 games. So tell me that Pete Carroll is a genius picking players based off of what you just heard. Okay, and I understand, his kind of love affair with Jamal Adams. It's been sort of what he's done throughout his career in building around a star safety. And he had Palomala at USC. And, man, Coach O has told me different stories about, man, how that evolved with Troy. And you look at the safeties that have played at Seattle when they had the Legion of Boom. And, man, just tremendous safety play. So he gives up a first and a third this year, a first in 2022, and Bradley McDowell for Jamal. So that's a lot to give up for a safety. You got to admit, as much as, listen, we think the world of Jamal Adams as a player. But, man, giving up 2 firsts and a third is a lot for a safety. even despite the fact that's really where he wants to build defensively. He wants the pass rusher, but he wants that guy that can play close to the line of scrimmage, can rush a quarterback. So that is a lot, but I understand more than some of these first and second round picks he's made. I mean, so I guess he figured, listen, I can't hit on the picks. I just assume give them up to get me a proven player that fits what I do.
Wow.
But I think that's a relationship that has gone sour, and a divorce will happen either this year or next. Egos have got involved with this. This is about power and control. And Pete really thinks he is a personnel genius. And yet that record shows it that he's not. And he's got tremendous say on those selections. John Snyder is part of it as the GM, but Pete has got a lot of power behind the scenes there. But no, when you go to Super Bowls like he has, and he won one, and he should have won the second one.
Yeah.
Come on, that's a dumbass call not to give that thing to Marshawn Lynch. Come on, let him run it in. Come on, you can't give Brady and the Patriots, even as you run it a couple of times, you don't want to give them any time on the clock. You want to end it. So he'll live with that the rest of his life. And that was a bad call. It can happen, and I'm sure for every coach who's been in spots, it's you've had that happen. But, Matt, we're starting to see the rift between the quarterback and the head coach now. Two guys that have pretty good egos here. And I'll be honest with you. When the Saints signed Drew Brees, I think I was doing the show with Charlie Hannegriff at that time. I told Charlie, man, I like the pick, and if Drew is healthy, I think he'll be a great fit for what Sean does. But, man, I wonder a little bit because I'd heard enough about Sean and how he interacts, and I knew Drew, he had a healthy one too, how they would mesh together. It's funny how they have worked in tandem so well, and yet we saw what happened in New England with guys that won so many championships together and went through so many great times. And what it became at the end, egos fractured. I can win without you, and okay, hey, it's been fun, but I can win with any quarterback. Yeah, I saw that anybody quarterback. And I saw what you did with the anybody quarterback. And I saw what Tampa did with Brady. So, however you want to cut this is the start of a fractured relationship between the head coach and the quarterback. It's going to end in a divorce either this spring or next year. You can bank it. Mm. And now it's to come up with a deal that would help both sides. And this pops in my mind. This was probably last May. And my partner on another station, we had Gay Culverhouse on, who was the former president of Bucks, and she was talking about player benefits and everything else. And he brought up the fact, hey, what about the fact that, money's always involved in any kind of trades or anything else? And Gay said, I'm going to stop you, honey, right there. If I want a player, I don't give a damn how much I got to pay him. Mm. I got a salary cap consultant guy, and that's his job to figure it out. If I want somebody bad enough, I get him. And so it's not going to be about money. It's going to be about compensation. And where that compensation will draw a line in the sand. Mm. And what Seattle would want. And if I'm Seattle, the way I've picked, man, my thing is, I got a couple players on that team that I know are proven guys. I want them because I look at those draft picks I've made those last 4 or 5 years. I'm not putting that in the NFL Hall of Fame.
Yeah. All right, we talked about obviously the Saints' interest. Now the question becomes, Russell Wilson's agent mentioned 4 teams: the Saints, the Cowboys, the Raiders, and the Bears. What type of deal might the Saints be able to offer, and how might that compare to whatever the other teams could offer? Take that however you want, Mike, if you want to go team by team or as a whole or whatever.
Okay, first things first. Because of where you picking, it becomes a more difficult task. Okay, you got the 28th pick in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
If you end up with Wilson, that may be the earliest pick Seattle gets, or you will be in that region, So, man, if I'm Seattle, I'm saying, geez, every year, sort of like me, you end up with 22 or 23 really legit first-round picks. And from like 24 to like 44, the numbers are really close.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes it a daunting task. So now what I have to do is say, okay, I've got to offer something maybe that other team can't offer. And my thing would come in is you can have one of my starting linemen, but his last name can't be Ramczyk.
Mm.
Okay?
Who else would you want, Mike?
What do you mean?
If you're Seattle, who else would be
appealing?
appealing?
If I'm Seattle, because I think now, Pete's in the mode, okay, I've given up a first in 2021, a first in 2022. Okay, that's got to be part of it. That you're going to have to give up a first in 2021. I would think the first and third would be in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
And you may have to even give up something in 2023. But the key would be, I know Seattle needs linemen, offensive linemen, badly. And, again, I'd be willing to deal, but that guy can't be Ramczyk. I would take him off the board. Can't be him. We got to go a different direction if that's what you're looking for.
Mm.
So for me, it would be 3 early picks, and most likely they may even ask for 3 first-round picks and a starting offensive lineman.
So Kamara or
I don't see the Cowboys doing that now, unless they could somehow figure out a deal that to get Dak included. But I don't know. Does Seattle want to walk down that? Because this is going to leave them some salary cap ramifications if they deal off Russ. So you got to look there. What do the Bears have to offer other than draft choices? They paid a king's ransom for Khalil Mack. Now, if I was Seattle, I'm saying, give me that Roquan Smith guy. He was the best player on that team a year ago. So that would be something I would look at. The Raiders, man, they got a lot of young talent, but man, it would be exactly where. They're not overloaded with offensive linemen for sure, by any stretch of the imagination. So it's going to be the big question of, do you want those real late picks in the draft in round 1? If you Seattle. Again, that's what makes this difficult with the Saints, in the fact that you're going to be picking so late. It's not like if you make a deal with the Jets,
mm-hmm.
Or say Atlanta this year. You understand you're going to be picking high. It's the reason why I've never really thought the Saints were in the involvement deal with Watson, because if I'm the Texans, what?
Right.
I'm picking 28th? Oh, you best call someone else. Man, I don't want to be picking no 28th in the draft. So that's where the Saints are going to be sort of in the pickle here, and that's where you may have to give up. Listen, to get something, you got to give up something.
Mm-hmm.
And it may well have to be one of your young offensive linemen. And I would do it with the one exception. I ain't giving up Ramczyk. Ain't happening.
So first of all, all right, I get 2 follows. One, the argument about the Saints picking late, wouldn't that same argument be made for the other teams if Russell Wilson went there? Theoretically, if Russell went to the Cowboys or to the Raiders or the Bears. I mean, the Bears are a playoff team. The Bears are a playoff team this year, Mike. I mean, I understand. Like, so who? I guess the Cowboys have the 10th pick this year, so that would obviously be a high pick. But beyond that, everyone else, subsequently, would be picking late in round 1.
Well, are the Raiders picking late in round 1?
Let me see. Where are the Raiders picking this year?
Oh, no.
I'm looking up the draft order right now. You got my head spinning right now. I think where they're picking right now, in the draft order. But so for future drafts though, that wouldn't be relevant.
Well, I would always be looking in the future if I'm Seattle. And other thing too, I'm trading him in the NFC.
Yeah,
I'm trading him to an NFC team.
Makes sense. Yeah.
That wouldn't be a killer for a deal because just think about a few years back. The season ends. The Saints deal Jimmy Graham off to Seattle, and they get Max Unger and a first-round pick. And at that time, man, Saints fans was in an uproar.
Yep.
Because I did sports talk for 2 nights after that. People were screaming bloody murder. We gave him away. We didn't get nothing in return. A center? Man, you didn't know nothing about Max Unger. Nothing. Max wasn't a good player. Max was a very good player and on the verge of a great player.
Mm-hmm.
And what you got. Now, you didn't turn that first-round pick. You didn't swing the card, okay? Stephon Anthony didn't make it for you.
Right.
But you did get a very good player. And, man, I'm just telling you, the Saints are still looking to replace Max Unger.
Yeah.
I mean, Eric McCoy is a good player, but he's not playing at no level that Max Unger was playing at in his prime. And Eric will be switched over to guard this year, and I think Eric's a really good player. But, man, Max was an elite offensive center and a big man center, too. He wasn't a small guy. He was a big man playing center. So a lot of Saints fans are people who write on the internet and how did they say that the Twitter machine.
The Twitter machine.
Yeah, if you went back then, their opinion was totally different than what it is today about that deal. Because most people really didn't pay attention to Max Unger playing in Seattle. They saw the first round pick,
mm-hmm.
but that you knew it was going to be a late one. You know, what you're getting from Seattle, you knew it was going to be a late one. But again, the devil in the cards is the deal of how to get him out of there. Because you know now, by his agent saying, Russ didn't ask to be traded. He wants to return to Seattle. But, and man, when they add that but to it, Matt, you know there's a lot of things rolling there.
Mm-hmm.
And he throws you out the teams. So aren't the Wilson camp saying, hey, listen, we know you talking to other teams. That rumor's been out there now for weeks that Russ could possibly be included in a deal. That's not breaking news. I think it became more relevant today when his agent got involved and made this statement. But that rumor's been out there for a little while that possibly Wilson could get traded. I think, though, this does show the schism between the two sides now is pretty wide. My thing about it is and I don't know the owner of the Seahawks, and I don't think she has a lot of interest in pro football. She knows it's a moneymaker, though.
Mm-hmm.
That she knows how to do. Man, she can count money real well. And ain't nothing wrong with that. Listen, that's a gift to count money all day long like real Monopoly. But I think you got to sit the two sides down and say, hey, can we work this out between the two of us? Because if we can't, this year is the best year to get value for Wilson. Because we can't wait another year because, something may happen. Something may happen. And so if we're going to trade him, let's do it now. Here's my thing. If I'm Pete Carroll, who's playing quarterback for me?
Yeah. So, Mike, back to the point. Dallas picks 10th. The Raiders are 17th, and the Bears are 20th. So they're better picks, obviously. We're still not talking about top 10 picks. Like we would have been talking, right, with Deshaun when you were talking about possibly Tua or the Jets or some of the teams that were rumored to be important there. So a lot of people are asking, Mike, and you hit on something, what happens with Dak? If it is Dallas, is there a way that Dak could end up in New Orleans?
My thing is, if you're trading for Russell Wilson, that signal is Dak's gone.
For sure.
Either he's involved in this deal some kind of way, or he's involved in another deal.
Okay.
He's out. And I understand this is not so much a financial issue with the Cowboys, but the length of a contract. Because I think what Dak's agents want to do is they want to short-term this contract in effect to kind of hit the daily double, in 4 years. So it's the length of the contract that is the crux, not so much the finances. It's adding another year to the contract.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And that to me is just as bad as money. Just as bad as arguing over a couple $1 million a year. Because if you think that you're paying quarterbacks a lot in 2021, can you imagine what you're going to have to pay a star quarterback in 2025?
I mean, Mike, we just saw, obviously, Patrick Mahomes reset that market. And, whatever that's going to be.
So Matt,
go ahead,
know what? You go from player to partner. If you're a quarterback today, it's a Joe DiMaggio line. Somebody asked him before he passed away, and he was doing these card shows. How much would you make a year as a player? And Joe was like, as a player, I wouldn't be a player. I'd be part owner of the Yankees.
Yeah.
And then you think about it. He may have been right.
Yeah.
And aren't we moving in that sort of direction quarterback-wise in this league?
Yes.
You're talking about $45 million. In 2025, to pay these top quarterbacks, you're going to be looking in that region of $40 to $44, $45 million a year. So, man, you just may well be taking that picture with the owner.
Mike, we've had a bunch of follow. You can imagine. I mean, just everybody's talking about the Russell Wilson thing today. I keep checking the text line and the Bayou Ford YouTube chat, and there's so many follow-up questions. A lot of people are asking, Mike, what about including Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, Taysom Hill, players like that in a potential deal with Seattle?
Man, I ain't giving up Alvin Kamara. You can forget that. That ain't happening. I don't know how Seattle feels about Taysom Hill. At all. I don't know how Pete would feel about, because listen, they still got some that, they want to swear on the Bible that Taysom's going to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Because Coach said that.
Right.
Okay, I get it. But I hate to break them bad news. But sometimes coaches lie to you. And, and Taysom is a really good football player. And I would want him on my team. I just don't want him as a starter. I could figure out a way to use him in so many different ways, and he can help me win. But as a starting quarterback, no, that's not happening for me. Because eventually they're going to figure all this out. And you started to see it toward the end, even in that Philly game. Man, they had him rattled. They had him rattled pretty good in that football game. Michael Thomas is intriguing, but okay, if I'm sending him to Seattle, what does that tell you about DK Metcalf and Lockett?
Yeah. Okay,
they got two guys already. So explain to me, why would you, and maybe they would, you would say, I want Michael Thomas instead of a starting lineman. Okay, I've already got Lockett. I've got Metcalf on the other side. Don't I have a pretty good tandem of receivers already?
Yeah.
So I get it. Everybody's trying to send people off. Just like I saw some report, and I still shake my head about it, about the deal Marshawn Lattimore off. And I still, I didn't sleep well that night that somebody could actually think about that and write it. Because if you trade Lattimore off, who do you have at cornerback today? Okay, you got a 31-year-old Janoris Jenkins unsigned and a 32-year-old Patrick Robinson. Explain to me, what are you going to do at cornerback? Now, they ain't figured that part out yet, but he's part of any deal, So, Matt, I understand the Michael Thomas thing, and he didn't have a great year and everything else. But again, if you look at it you got to look at it from Seattle's side.
Sure.
Okay, I got Lockett, I got Metcalf. That's not where I need the help. I needed other area. I needed in other areas. So I would say probably not.
If it's
on Michael Thomas.
Sorry, Mike. If it's offensive line, and that's kind of where we started, you said you have to throw in a starting lineman. Is Andrus Peat enough of a bargaining chip where they would want Andrus Peat?
Well, my thing about it is Andrus wasn't where I was going if I'm Seattle. I would say I want Eric McCoy.
Okay.
If I'm Seattle, that's who I say I want. Or Teron Armstead. I want one of the two.
Done.
Those are 1-2 for me. And let me figure out if the Saints would say, okay, you can have any starting lineman other than Ramczyk. My thing would be, man, Armstead and McCoy are real high on the list. It would be one of those two guys.
Mm-hmm.
Pete would be third on the list, I guess. But he wouldn't be enough for you to convince me to make that deal. Now, for Saints fans, they all for it. Yeah, we'll kick in Pete.
Yeah,
right? We'll throw in 3 first-round picks in Pete.
Right, that's always my thought, right? It's like, if you're eager to get rid of someone, would another team be eager to get them? Think about it from their side.
Yeah, you got to always think of the other flip of the coin there, of what do you need? And, and I look at Seattle, and it's secondary people. That secondary is nothing close to being the same. I mean, and Jamal really is almost like another linebacker. He plays up near the line of scrimmage. I would need help at corner. I would certainly need help along the offensive line. And so those two areas come to play. They never, they're not a really good pass rush team by any stretch of the imagination. But with Hendrickson, a free agent, that you can't offer that in any deal. So you kind of boxed into what you can do, and that's going to be the crux of it. Not that you can't do it financially. The stuff about the finances part, and man, you read all this stuff here and there. If you want somebody bad enough, that's why they pay Kai Harley the money they're paying him, and Mickey the money they paying him to come up with that figure. And they can work it out financially. Is to come up with the right compensation. Now, you got a 32-year-old Russell Wilson. For me, he would be worth 3 first-round picks I give up and a starting lineman.
Do it. I mean, Mike,
I'd do it in a heartbeat.
I'm with you. The one other player that you quickly dismissed is Kamara, and I'm curious why, because I love Alvin Kamara, Mike, but if you gave me a franchise quarterback or a running back, even one as versatile as Alvin Kamara, I'd do that too. Why am I wrong?
I don't know that Pete would do that though.
Oh, okay.
Pete, to me, he's got a revolving door at running back. He's had a host of running backs in Seattle. He really likes more of the Thunder back, to be honest with you. I think he likes that bigger back. Like he had when he had Marshawn. I think he likes that. I think he's thought maybe Penny could be that type back. He can't stay healthy for a lick. Nothing. He can't stay healthy. So I think he likes the bigger running back than say Alvin. Now, Alvin's terrific in what he does, and he's a perfect fit for the Saints offense.
Yep.
But I'm not sure that's the type back Pete Carroll's looking for. And what he wants to do. Because really, I think Pete wants to run the football, control the clock, and sort of limited passing. That it's not all on the quarterback. I think back at this, and I grew up in this era, that this is very reminiscent to me of what happened in the early 70s. In the 60s, Fran Tarkenton got traded to the Giants. In exchange, they got 2 first and 2 second-round picks for Fran. In 67, Fran was offered to the Saints, the year one, and the Saints turned it down. A few years later, the Giants were, we need draft picks because we've given all these up, for Fran. So what they do, they ended up trading Fran right back to the Vikings. Because their deal is, their offensive line wasn't good. They didn't have a running game. Fran was running for his life. Is there a better player on the move today than Russell Wilson? You look at him, improvisational. That ain't drawing up plans. He's got to do it. He's running for his life because he's getting rocked on every play in that pocket. And so I think that's a big part of why Russ is saying, listen, man, I got to get out of here before my career ends. Look what happened to Andrew Luck. Look what happened to him. Look what happened to Carson Wentz. And he got beat up bad in Philly when their offensive line, started getting older. So I understand both sides of it here. The big question mark is, does somebody entice another, and will there be a domino hit somewhere? And you brought up Dak. And is that a lurking situation there? Is that the domino? Because I don't see it. Sam Darnold's not going to make me do anything. Come on. Because Sam Darnold. Now, Deshaun Watson is a different story. But some domino to hit to trigger the next domino to fall. And in the NFL world, and with all this movement at quarterback, probably 2 weeks ago, the trade talk about Russ Wilson would have been looked at as more smoke, no fire. Tell me that they don't have a little fire today.
Oh, man.
They got a lot of fire behind it. And the agent, he threw the gas on it. In essence, just by him saying how he said it, we want to be in Seattle. We love it there. We want to be back, but if you're going to deal me. And so, in essence, he's sort of telling you what's going on behind the scenes because he knows that Snyder and Carroll have had conversations with other teams about Russell Wilson. You can't keep that a secret in this league. They got too many. Remind me of growing up, man. I always had an old aunt and an old mama. And man, they knew every little piece of gossip that went on, no matter what. Now, if all of it was true or not remains to be seen. But we always have that relative, that they hear stuff. Man, it's unbelievable. They got that ear to the ground, and they'd have been good back in the Pioneer days.
Randall says, ask Mike, how different would the Saints' offense be with Russell Wilson at quarterback?
It's going to basically look the same. I think the one thing with Russ is underrated about him is that he can throw the deep ball really well. Now, again, Father Time and injuries took that away from Breeze, that he couldn't do that anymore the last couple years. So that would be the element, but I think what you have been seeing, the way they run it offensively, would sort of be the same look again. Now, the one thing with Russ is his ability to extend the play. And you can count on a finger or two of guys in his area code that can do it like what he can. It would be a little different, but I think Sean sort of knows the personnel around him and how to use it well. I think it would look very similar, other than the fact I think you would have that deep play element that you haven't seen the last few years, just because of Drew's lack of great arm strength, which he never had, but he was decent throwing the deep ball. But again, Father Time and injuries took that away from him.
Alistar via text said, not to be a Debbie Downer, Mike, but would Wilson's dead cap hit to Seattle be too much for them to overcome?
Listen, I think that if you want to move a player, it don't make any difference. What was that dead cap hit with Jared Goff in L.A.?
And
what is that dead cap hit?
And Carson Wentz. Oh,
Carson Wentz in Philly. Woo. Did it make any difference there?
That was the largest dead cap hit in the history of the NFL.
So it goes to show you, when you have come to a decision to move at that particular spot, I'll repeat it. Mm-hmm. Money does not make an issue.
Will Davis asked Mike, Jameis or the field?
I still think, because
That's
the
a
way
good question,
things are.
Mike.
No, it's a good question. I would lean a tad toward Jameis, but I think the Saints like Jameis. Now, the thing about it is, do they love him?
Mm-hmm.
We fixing to find out.
Yeah.
Because there's a difference between liking somebody and loving somebody, and I think Sean's in the dating stages here at quarterback. Listen, if you dating, that ain't there's nothing wrong with looking and dating someone else. But because people want to be right and say, I told you it was Jameis, I told you it was him, and they sticking to that no matter what. So you trying to convince me, and listen, I had some today. You trying to convince me that you would want Jameis to start over Russell Wilson?
Hell no, Mike. And you know that I've been the conductor of the Jameis train. But if you give me a guy who's won a Super Bowl and been to another, choo choo, let's go, man. All aboard the Rush train.
Because come on, it's common sense. But Matt, I think there's some egos there with people that I want a certain player and that's that. Yeah. No, if you can get a great player, you turn over as much ground as you can to get him.
He is Mike Detillier, SaintsReport.com, MikeDetillier.com. Order your M&D draft report right now at MikeDetillier.com. Now go. Mike, you're the best. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you, Matthew.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.